Easy to say where our national interests are, and you don't want to see Baghdad fall. And the really hard thing is to say what America can do about it. And I don't think right now it's clear we don't have a good strategy. The thing that worries me about ISIS is that they seem to be a particularly brutal terrorist group that, instead of trying to hide their atrocities, advertises them as a way of, scaring their opponents and showing people just slaughtered. And it worries me that if this continues and we start seeing on our TV every few days slaughters of innocent people, it's not going to be in the hands of the president and even Congress to decide which way to go. People, even though right now I think America is very circumspect about going back in there, I don't know how much we can sustain on our TVs every night slaughters of people. And I think that may be one of the reasons why they advertise it, is they know that this will pull us back in. How do we avoid that? How do we control that? Because that really concerns me, is that we're not really going to be able to steer our own policy. People are going to see atrocities, and even though we don't have a well-formulated plan, they're going to say, oh, we've got to do something about this. This is terrible.
People are being killed without saying who, by the side.
Well, I mean, again, I think we're just coming back to the arguments that we've made. I mean, we ultimately have to be confident that any U.S. military intervention would make the situation better, not worse. And I frankly think there is a large argument that injecting, I mean, God forbid, new U.S. troops, or at the very least, U.S.-backed military assistance would just fan the flames of sectarian war rather than quell them.
And I think there's going to be a loud cry when people start seeing things on TV. They're going to say, we got to do something. Even though what we might be able to do is going to make things worse.
So I have one question. I came from Stanford in traffic to ask, which is, Der Spiegel, The Guardian, Reuters, and WMD all reported that the U.S. was training ISIS as well as other Syrian rebel militants in Jordan. This was like, these are reputable sources. Has it now become U.S. policy, official U.S. policy, to fight with militias opposed to democratically elected leaders and other legitimate rulers of nations we aren't at war with? If so, is this practice constitutional? If not, what can we do about it?
Are you saying that Bashar al-Assad is democratically elected?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, no. I'm not saying specifically in, yeah. But Maliki is, yeah. But I'm saying, like, a lot of times it feels like because I've even heard a general admit that he didn't know how many covert forces were within his armed forces, because there were all these, whatever you want to call, you could call them shadow brigades or whatever you want to call them. And I'm just wondering when we're going to eventually get the point that, like, you gave a very great metaphor, which is like there's this snake and then there's this this lid, and the snake wants to get out. And I remember my brother had a python and it got out because he took the rock off, and we're like that heavy rock, that solid strength. But at some point, when are we going to learn to be the snake charmer?
Well, let me say one thing very clearly. We are in no way, shape, or form training ISIS. We're not. In fact, through a variety of mechanisms, we've been working with people to try to go after those guys. We are not training ISIS.
The leaks show otherwise.
No, it's not.
No leaks?
No, look, every single day I'm in the Intelligence Committee being updated on what exactly is happening there, and I will speak circumspectly, but I will tell you that we are absolutely not training ISIS.
We have been supporting, no, not ISIS. We have been providing certain levels of support. This is reported in open source to the moderate elements of the Syrian opposition. Now, I have been opposed generally to the president's plans to train and equip the Syrian rebels, because I think it's ultimately impossible to distinguish between the moderate elements of that opposition and the non-moderate elements of that opposition. And even if you do that at the outset, the weapons and the training that you're giving to one group is going to pretty quickly accrue to the benefit of the next group. And so that to me speaks to the absurdity of trying to once again engage in this great game in the middle of very complicated multi-sectarian conflicts. Let's get some people